You've seen it. Perhaps you've lived it. The good man. The one who is a checklist of modern virtues. Kind, stable, emotionally available, attentive. He listens to her problems as if they were his own, remembers the name of her childhood pet, and answers her texts with the reliability of a Swiss watch. He is, by all societal standards, the grand prize. And you've seen him standing on the sidelines, a monument to confusion and quiet heartbreak, watching the woman he adores walk away, straight into the arms of a man who is his living antithesis. A man who is a storm of unpredictability. A man who treats his phone like a state secret and his time like a depleting resource she must compete for. He is the wilderness to the good man's manicured garden, the gamble to his sure bet. He is, for lack of a better term, the bad boy. And the question that burns in the minds of millions of good men, a question whispered in frustration and despair, is a simple, agonizing one. Why? Why does she articulate a desire for a partner but choose a project? Why does she champion the virtues of safety but chase the thrill of danger? Why is there such a chasm between the man she says she wants and the man she viscerally, uncontrollably desires? The answer won't be found in the comforting platitudes of self-help gurus or the contrived plots of romantic comedies. It is not because you are fundamentally not enough, or because of the simplistic, dismissive trope that women are crazy. The truth is far more primal, more ancient, and more deeply coded into our very biology than our modern sensibilities are comfortable admitting. You are not witnessing a glitch in her logic. You are witnessing the flawless, cold execution of a multi-million-year-old survival program. Today, we take a brutal, unflinching look at the engine of female evolutionary psychology. We will peel back the delicate layers of societal conditioning and stare directly into the ancient, unblinking eye of our shared genetic history. This is not a diatribe to blame women. It is a masterclass to understand the powerful, often invisible operating system that dictates attraction and desire, frequently overriding conscious thought. This is the bad boy paradox, and by the end of this deep dive, the fog of your confusion will evaporate, replaced by a chilling and ultimately empowering clarity. 1. The ancient blueprint, survival and the reproductive ledger. To understand the choices of a woman in a coffee shop in the 21st century, you must first transport yourself to the brutal reality of her ancestors on the plains of the Serengeti 100,000 years ago. Forget civilized society. The world was a theater of relentless peril. Predation, starvation, tribal warfare, and disease were the four horsemen of daily life. For an ancestral woman, the choice of a sexual partner was the single most consequential decision she would ever make. This was not a romantic whim. It was a high-stakes genetic and survival gamble. A poor choice didn't lead to an awkward breakup. It led to her death or the death of her children. The reproductive ledger was written in blood. In this unforgiving landscape, her biological imperative, honed over countless generations of natural selection, was twofold. It created a dual-pronged, often internally conflicted mating strategy. First, she was driven to secure the absolute best genetic material for her offspring. Second, she was driven to secure consistent provision and protection to ensure those offspring survived the perilous journey to adulthood. Let's dissect this with the precision it deserves. What were the signals of good genes? In a world where physical prowess was paramount, good genes were not whispered, they were broadcast. They were advertised through undeniable and hard-to-fake signals of health, strength, and social dominance. The man who was physically imposing, who moved with a fluid, predatory grace, was a man who likely possessed a superior immune system and the physical ability to defend his territory. But it went deeper. The man who was unflinchingly confident, the one who displayed a touch of arrogance, was signaling a profound belief in his own capabilities. This wasn't just ego, it was an advertisement of his successful track record. In the brutal meritocracy of the ancestral world, you didn't survive long with baseless confidence. His willingness to take calculated risks, to lead a dangerous hunt, to challenge a rival, was a public demonstration of his superior genetics. He was proving, in real time, that he could conquer his environment and rise to the top of the tribe's hierarchy. These men were the alphas. Their DNA was a promise of offspring who would be born with an inherent advantage, children who would be strong, healthy, and capable of dominating their own generation. And here we arrive at the central conflict. The man who was the carrier of this genetic gold was often the worst candidate for a long-term monogamous partnership. His very success and high status made him a target of desire from multiple females. His biological programming, just like hers, was geared for maximum reproductive success. For a high-status male, this meant spreading his superior genes as widely as possible. He was a genetic investor playing multiple markets, not a loyal employee dedicated to one company. Commitment and paternal investment were often secondary to his primary directive of genetic proliferation. This forced the ancestral woman into a perilous calculation. She needed a good provider. This was the man who signaled loyalty, stability, and most importantly, a willingness to invest his accumulated resources, food, shelter, protection, exclusively in her and her children. The behavioral markers of a good provider were the very traits we associate with the nice guy today: kindness, generosity, patience, and unwavering dependability. He was the man who would stand guard over the camp, the one who would reliably share his hunt, the one who would be there through the vulnerability of pregnancy and the exhausting years of child-rearing. For millennia, the female psyche has been a battleground for these two competing imperatives. The dual mating strategy was born from this conflict. Does she engage in a short-term, clandestine affair with the dominant alpha to secure his world-class genes for her offspring while maintaining a long-term pair bond with a reliable provider who will unwittingly raise that child? Or does she forego the genetic jackpot for the security of a man who will undoubtedly stick around? This ancient, high-stakes dilemma is the ghost in the machine of modern attraction. It is the fundamental software coded in the language of survival that still runs silently in the background of every romantic choice a woman makes today. Deconstructing the bad boy archetype, a modern echo of an ancient champion. Let's teleport back to the present. The bad boy archetype is compelling precisely because he unknowingly and with uncanny accuracy pushes all the ancient good genes buttons. He is a walking, talking avatar of the primal cues that women are biologically programmed to find intoxicating. To her limbic system, he is not a tattooed barista with a motorcycle. He is the triumphant hunter returning with the kill. Let's put his core traits under the evolutionary microscope. First, unapologetic confidence and social dominance. The bad boy possesses a quality known as frame. His frame is his reality, his set of rules, his perception of the world. He does not enter a room and adapt to its social temperature. He enters a room and sets the thermostat. His confidence is not brittle. It is bone deep. He doesn't seek validation through conversation. His presence is the validation. This is a direct modern parallel to the tribal chief. This unwavering self-belief signals to her primal brain that he is competent, that he can handle social pressure, that he is a winner. The nice guy, conversely, is often a frame giver. He eagerly relinquishes his own reality to make her more comfortable, constantly seeking consensus and approval. While consciously perceived as kind, this behavior signals to her subconscious that his frame is weak and subordinate. She may appreciate it, but she cannot desire it, because it feels like following a man who is himself lost. Second, unpredictability and the power of intermittent reinforcement. The good man operates on a fixed reinforcement schedule. His attention is consistent, predictable, and therefore taken for granted. He is the reliable salary. The bad boy, however, is the slot machine. He provides intense, euphoric attention, then withdraws it without warning. This pattern of intermittent reinforcement is the most powerful behavioral addiction system known to psychology. The lows of his absence create a desperate craving, and the highs of his return trigger a euphoric dopamine rush. Her brain becomes addicted not necessarily to him, but to the emotional roller coaster he provides. He creates a problem, his absence, that only he can solve, his return. This manufactured cycle of anxiety and relief makes him perpetually occupy her mind. He becomes a puzzle to be solved, a mystery to be unraveled, while the good man is an open book, read once and placed on the shelf. Third, indifference and non-neediness. This is the tell of a man with high perceived value. The bad boy's life is not a waiting room for a relationship. He has a mission, a purpose, a passion that predates her and will continue with or without her. His emotional state is not tethered to her approval. This indifference is the ultimate signal of abundance. It communicates to her subconscious that he has options, other women, other priorities, a rich and fulfilling life. This triggers her competitive instincts. She must prove herself worthy of earning a place in his world. The nice guy often commits the fatal error of making the woman his mission. He signals that his world was empty until she arrived, making his happiness her responsibility. This neediness, intended as the ultimate compliment, is interpreted by her primal brain as the ultimate burden and a clear signal of low value, weakness, and desperation. And this leads us to the darker, more clinical explanation, the dark triad. Psychologists identify 3 specific personality traits that are socially aversive but romantically alluring: narcissism, an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration; Machiavellianism, strategic social manipulation, a focus on self-interest; and psychopathy, a lack of empathy, impulsivity, and thrill-seeking. While a man with a full-blown personality disorder is a danger, men who exhibit subclinical traces of these traits are magnetic. His narcissism is perceived as supreme confidence. His Machiavellianism is perceived as social savvy and an ability to navigate power structures. His psychopathic tendencies are perceived as fearlessness, resilience, and an exciting willingness to break rules. These traits are hyper-masculine caricatures of the good genes signals, and they act like a powerful, if toxic, aphrodisiac on the female libido. The modern mismatch, ancient wiring in a digital world. If this programming is an evolutionary advantage, why does it create so much chaos and misery in the modern world? The answer is a concept known as evolutionary mismatch. The world has been radically transformed in a geological blink of an eye, but human biology evolves at a glacial pace. We are running software designed for the savannah on hardware that exists in skyscrapers. In the ancestral environment, a woman's survival and the survival of her children were directly correlated with her ability to accurately intuit a man's genetic fitness from his behavior. His dominance was a predictor of protection. His risk-taking was a predictor of reward. In today's world, this correlation is broken. A man's ability to create a successful app, to argue a complex legal case, or to perform delicate surgery are far more potent indicators of his ability to provide resources and security than his ability to intimidate other men at a bar. The modern jungle is one of intellect, strategy, and social acuity, not brute force. Our society is built on systems of law, commerce, and cooperation that render the lone wolf archetype functionally obsolete, if not detrimental. This creates a spectacular conflict between the different regions of the female brain. Her neocortex, the seat of logic, reason, and long-term planning, is the modern part of her brain. It can read a man's resume, appreciate his stable income, admire his emotional intelligence, and respect his kindness. Her neocortex is the part of her brain that writes a list of qualities for the perfect husband, and that list will invariably describe the good man. But deep within lies the limbic system, the ancient, reptilian part of the brain that governs raw emotion, instinct, and survival drives. It is the part of the brain that kept her ancestors alive. The limbic system doesn't understand stock portfolios or dental plans. It speaks a single, primal language, the language of strength, status, and survival value. It is the CEO of attraction. So a woman can be on a date with a man who is a perfect 10 on her logical checklist, but her limbic system remains dormant. He doesn't trigger the ancient circuits. There is no spark. Her conscious mind might even scold her subconscious, "You should like this guy." But attraction is not a choice. It is a reaction. Conversely, a brief, high-tension interaction with a man who radiates unapologetic confidence and a hint of danger can light up her limbic system like a Christmas tree, overriding all rational thought. Her logical brain might be screaming, "Red flag," but her emotional brain is screaming, "Winner." And in the visceral, split-second vote of sexual attraction, the limbic system holds all the electoral power.
The inevitable crash, the hangover of primal desire. The intoxicating cocktail of primal attraction, however, inevitably leads to a brutal long-term hangover. The very traits that make the bad boy a thrilling short-term prospect make him a catastrophic long-term partner. The evolutionary programming that created the initial irresistible pull is the same programming that ensures the relationship's eventual painful demise. The initial addictive thrill of his unpredictability decays into a constant, gnawing anxiety. The phone calls that go unanswered, the plans that are broken at the last minute, the emotional hot and cold. This instability erodes her sense of security and self-worth. His powerful emotional frame, which once felt like a source of strength and protection, now feels like a cold, impenetrable wall of isolation. His indifference, which was once an alluring signal of his high value, becomes a soul-crushing source of neglect and loneliness. The woman who commits to a man with strong bad boy or dark triad traits is making a dangerous gamble. She is betting against the house, believing that she will be the exception. She thinks that her love, her patience, her nurturing will be the magical ingredient that finally tames the beast and transforms him into the stable provider she also craves. She is attempting to merge the two primal desires, good genes and good provider, into one person. But this is a tragic misunderstanding of his core nature. You cannot nurture narcissism into empathy. You cannot love Machiavellianism into sincerity. You cannot fix a fundamental lack of empathy with affection. The very characteristics that define him are fundamentally incompatible with the cornerstones of a healthy, lasting relationship: trust, intimacy, vulnerability, and mutual respect. The relationship, therefore, devolves into a predictable, painful cycle. The idealization phase, where he mirrors her perfectly and showers her with intense passion. The devaluation phase, where his mask slips and he begins to subtly, or not so subtly, criticize, control, and withdraw. And finally, the discard phase, where he leaves, often abruptly and cruelly, once he has grown bored or found a new source of validation. The woman is left emotionally shattered, often developing a trauma bond where she mistakes the intensity of the abuse cycle for the intensity of love. This is the ultimate evolutionary bait and switch. Her instincts, designed for a world that no longer exists, lured her in with the promise of genetic superiority. But in the modern world, where emotional and psychological well-being are the true currencies of a successful life, her ancient programming has led her straight into a predator's den. The path forward, the integrated man. So what is the lesson in all this for the modern man? Is the answer to cynically adopt the manipulative tactics of the bad boy? To become a heartless player? Absolutely, unequivocally not. That is the response of a boy, not a man. That is a shallow and ultimately self-defeating strategy. The true path forward, the evolutionary leap required of the modern man, is not about choosing one archetype over the other. It is about intelligent integration. It is about becoming a new, superior model of masculinity that embodies the strengths of both. The goal is to become the immovable man, or what is sometimes called the high-value grounded man. From the bad boy archetype, you must surgically extract the signals of strength, not the toxic behaviors. Cultivate genuine, bone-deep confidence. This doesn't come from reciting affirmations in a mirror. It comes from the relentless pursuit of competence. Build a business, master a martial art, learn a language, get into the best physical shape of your life. Your confidence must be forged in the fires of discipline and achievement. Learn to set and ruthlessly enforce your boundaries. The good man fears that his boundaries will push her away. The immovable man understands that his boundaries are the very thing that creates respect and attraction. He says no without anger or apology, not as a tactic, but as a natural extension of his self-worth. He is a man of profound kindness, but he is not nice. Niceness is often a camouflage for fear. Kindness is a conscious choice made from a position of strength. And most critically, develop a driving, all-consuming purpose that is bigger than any single woman. Your mission, your business, your art, your legacy is your spine. A woman should be a cherished partner in your journey, a co-pilot, but never the entire destination. This is the authentic source of the non-neediness that her primal brain finds so utterly captivating. From the good man archetype, you must retain the virtues. Retain your integrity, your capacity for empathy, your ability to be a loyal and committed partner. But here is the pivotal shift. You offer these qualities as a gift, not as a payment. Your kindness is a choice, not a down payment for her affection. Your commitment is a conscious decision awarded to a woman who has demonstrated her worthiness, not a desperate plea for her to complete you. This is the essence of holding frame. The immovable man has his own reality, his own values, his own unshakable direction. He is the oak tree in the storm of her emotions. He can listen to her feelings with deep empathy. He can validate her experience, but he is not swept away by them. This strong, benevolent leadership is the ultimate gift to the feminine spirit. It creates the psychological safety she needs to finally stop testing, to relax, and to surrender into her natural feminine energy. In the final analysis, women are not your enemy. Their complex, ancient programming is not a flaw. It simply is. The man who laments this reality, who complains that the game is unfair, will forever be a pawn. But the man who understands this ancient game, who learns the rules so thoroughly that he can transcend them, becomes the master of his own destiny. Stop trying to be the safe, predictable man she says she wants. Stop trying to mimic the toxic behaviors of the man you think she desires. Instead, become the man who integrates both. The man who possesses the dangerous edge to ignite her primal desire and the unwavering integrity to earn her lasting trust. The man who is both the wild storm and the unbreakable harbor. That is the man who ends the game because he is the prize.